Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Something dramatic, crucial, and extraordinary has just happened, ladies and gentlemen. It just happened mere moments before this program began. The timing certainly not coincidental. It happened at the White House. It involved the President of the United States and a pen. And what happened was a first serious slice taken out of Obamacare, despite Senator John McCain's best efforts to thwart President Trump and preserve this boondoggle. The president has triumphed here at this stage. Greeting, great to have you. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, and I know you do, the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Before we get to this, there's something I have to observe as a setup. I don't know if you people have seen this, and I've seen it twice now. Two different stories, one of them from a supposedly conservative columnist who never was and is now demonstrated that she isn't. That would be Jennifer Rubin. People are beginning to invoke, perhaps they say, the necessity of the 25th Amendment. Do you know what the 25th Amendment is? The 25th Amendment basically is the cabinet gets together and votes on whether or not the president is competent to serve. And if not, they vote him out of office, and there's a line of succession that would assume power. This happens. And more people, well, it's two that I've seen, and it may be more than that, are now saying that we're on the verge of needing this because Trump is truly losing his mind. Trump is wandering around aimlessly in the White House with no friends. He's muttering to the photos on the wall. He's lost it and is on the verge of losing it completely. The evidence they cite is the president demanding to increase our nuclear arsenal by tenfold, despite everybody involved in this denying it. This, of course, is the springboard to Trump supposedly being called a moron by Secretary of State Tillerson, which then led to Trump suggesting an online IQ contest between him and Tillerson in which he would win. Well, the left, not finding any evidence whatsoever and now scraping the bottom of the barrel with the Trump dossier, can't find any evidence of collusion between Trump and the Russians, are now grasping at every straw. If anybody's losing their minds out there, it is the left. And this Harvey Weinstein story, on top of everything else that's causing them to lose their minds, is now speeding the process of them going crazy. As we are witnessing the left break down and go nuts right before our very eyes. But there are these two references I've seen, and the drive-bys, all it takes is one drive-by to pick it up, and it'll be amplified. Like I told you yesterday, Snerdly, I told you yesterday that my comments on Trump and the NFL were going to be purposely taken out of context. I told all of you that they would be taken out of context. I told all of you I knew exactly what would happen, and, I mean, Snerdly walks in here before everybody had left yesterday, said it's already happened. He showed me a story from thehill.com where they totally took out of context they left out a very crucial aspect of what I said. Because the drive-bys are eager to report that a staunch Trumpist like me might be breaking from Trump. I'm not breaking from Trump. I didn't indicate that I was breaking from Trump. But they're so desperate to report it. They're so excited. They even went out and found some conservative Republican strategists on TV to confirm it, to tell me how brilliant I was as a means of trying to encourage me to keep breaking from Trump. So I don't know that Trump's losing his mind. They have never thought he had one. But the reason I mention all this is because Trump was on with Hannity last night. Did any of you in there watch Trump with Hannity last night? Well, I saw a little bit of it. I didn't see anybody out of it. I saw somebody completely relaxed and confident, certainly not sitting on the edge of his seat, worried. I didn't see Humphrey Bogart juggling the marbles. I didn't see anything of the sort. And then at the ceremony at the White House this morning where Trump takes a huge slice out of Obamacare, I saw a relaxed guy laughing and having fun, as he was last night on the Hannity show. We don't have any behavioral evidence that would indicate Trump's losing his mind. It's all found in the drive-by media. And it's reported in the drive-by media by anonymous sources inside the White House. Sources close to Secretary Mattis. Sources close to Secretary Tillerson. Sources close that do not wish to go on the record because of the sensitivity and the nature of the allegations being leveled and so forth. You just don't see any evidence of it. But it's out there now. And Jennifer Rubin's piece today, she writes where now? She used to be at the Wall Street Journal. I guess that's right. She went on the Washington Post, a so-called conservative blogger. When do we reach the 25th Amendment territory? And there's one other reference. Is it maybe over here? Yeah, I think there's a story on Drudge that's not headlined, but it mentions it in the story. If you watch Trump this morning, you saw Trump last night, if you see Trump at any time, it doesn't appear to be anybody under a dark cloud to me. It seems to me that all of Trump's opponents are the ones cracking up. I mean, the suicide watch is out on leftists, not us. Certainly not on Trump. The Harvey Weinstein story, gee, I mean, in Hollywood, they're even shocked that somebody could fall this fast. Well, I know that Don Lemon is losing his mind at sea. They're all losing their minds over there. They're losing their minds everywhere that all of this is happening to them. Look at what is rearing its head. These people have thought they occupied the moral high ground. The sexual harassers and the abusers of women were exclusively all on the right. Well, those stories are few and far between, but on the left, you've got Teddy Kennedy, you've got Bill Clinton, now you've got Weinstein, you've got Anthony Weiner, Carlos Danger, and any number of other actors on the left. And so many theories that I have developed to, in my mind, explain all of this are now presenting themselves in front of everybody's eyes. I mean, they think they have the moral purity, the proper respect for women, and you look on the left and the serial abusers and rapists and the perverts are all found on their side. At least a significant number of them are. While these people have told themselves that they are clean and pure as the wind-driven snow. And they're reaching, I think, their wits' end at their inability to get rid of Trump. I mean, they thought they'd get this done inside of a month or two. I really do. I think they thought they believe this. They believe this stuff. They believe their own BS. I'm sure they believe that Trump colluded with the Russians. I'm sure they believe that Putin stole the election. I'm sure they believe it. They've gotten themselves so immersed in it, they believe it. That's not mentally healthy. And as they believe a succession of these crazy things and then they don't come to pass, then they get even crazier and nuttier. And it isn't Trump. Trump is not the one that appears with a dark cloud over him. No matter how the drive-bys want to spin things, what I see makes me refute everything the drive-bys are reporting about Trump's state of mind. He seems to me to be with it, involved, knowledgeable, relaxed, happy. That's the key. Trump's supposed to be miserable, you know. Nobody's supposed to be able to withstand this kind of withering assault day after day after day after day for over a year. Everybody should have crumbled by now. But certainly nobody should be thriving at the end of it. Nobody should be happy, upbeat, determined. But Trump doesn't let go. I think probably Trump supporters get more depressed than he does over day-to-day events. So let's go to the audio soundbites. You tell me what you hear. This is the signing ceremony today. Executive order to promote healthcare choice and competition. We have 2 bites. This is the first.
In a few moments, I will sign an executive order taking the first steps to providing millions of Americans with Obamacare relief. It directs the Department of Health and Human Services, the Treasury, and the Department of Labor to take action to increase competition, increase choice, and increase access to lower-priced, high-quality health care options. And they will have so many options. This will cost the United States government virtually nothing.
We don't care.
And people
about that.
will have great, great health care. And when I say people, I mean by the millions and millions.
And here's the next and last bite that we have.
I'm also directing Secretary Acosta to consider ways to expand these associations and these health care plans all across state lines.
There you go.
This will create tremendous competition.
There you go.
And transformative, in so many ways, change aimed at creating more and lower prices for millions of Americans.
There you
but
go.
The competition will be staggering.
There you go.
Insurance
That's right.
companies will be fighting to get every single person signed up. And you will be hopefully negotiating, and you'll get such low prices for such great care.
All right, so before getting into the nitty-gritty, I happened to be watching Fox News when this was over, and they had some leftist on there who was reading. He was on with Ed Rollins, and I don't even know this guy. I never saw him before. It doesn't matter. A dime a dozen. This guy's reading. Well, he's reciting talking points, and you should hear. Well, this goodbye coverage for pre-existing conditions. The president has just seen to it that the poor are going to lose their health insurance. The wealthy are going to get a tax. It was just monolithic, formulaic, cliched talking points. And the info babe was Melissa Francis. She got frustrated. Listen, this guy finally cut him off and said, "You didn't see what everybody else saw." Then Ed Rollins came on. He's just spouting talking points. The guy was fuming. You could see him when the camera was still on him, but he wasn't speaking. And he tried to go through it again after Ed Rollins finished. And Melissa Francis, look, we're just going to have to agree to disagree because you didn't watch what we saw. It didn't matter what Trump said. The left has their reaction to this. Now, here are the basics. And some things, I mean, the pictures of this were kind of incredible. Rand Paul, who came up with the shell of this idea, was introducing it and Mike Pence, the vice president. Rand Paul praised Trump for boldness and leadership. Rand Paul, when it comes to Obamacare, has been from the beginning of this opposed to anything that didn't literally get rid of Obamacare. You know, all these previous health care bills that some of them started in the House, the ones that had their origins in the Senate, he wasn't eager about any of them because, in his mind, they didn't really change anything other than cosmetically, but he's all aboard on this. And I think it has the potential to be a huge deal. Now, it's not everything. It can't be everything with just an executive order or executive action, but it's something. And it's more than we were ever going to get if we had left it up just to the Senate or just to the House. What the executive order will do is erase existing rules on small businesses banding together to buy health insurance through what are known as association health plans. It will lift limits on short-term health insurance plans, according to an administration source, and it will direct the order here directs the Department of Labor to modernize rules to allow small employers to create association health plans. Let me translate this for you, what all this news media speak means. The problem with Obama, one of the many problems is that healthy people are not buying it. And the reason they're not buying it's twofold. It's wildly expensive. It is irrationally expensive. And it's irrationally expensive because the mandate in Obamacare was going to force them to buy it. And their purchases were going to fund health care for the poor and the elderly and others who couldn't afford it. And so the burden was on the young and healthy. It never made any sense. The young, in a free market, the young and healthy would not buy health insurance other than catastrophic because they're young and healthy. They don't need it. So the mandate was created requiring them to, and they just didn't do it. They opted to pay the fine, or they just rolled the dice that the IRS couldn't catch them with all the other things the IRS has to do. And so there wasn't anywhere near enough money coming in to fund at the front end or the back end Obamacare, and it led to a whole lot of people without insurance. This change will allow for the market to begin creating policies that match the need and desire of customers, meaning they're going to be allowed to scrub existing policies and rewrite new ones that only offer X coverage of this coverage, that coverage, not mandate universal coverage for every damn thing that a young 25-year-old guy will never need, like contraception coverage. Not going to be required to buy this kind of stuff. The insurance companies will now be free to create policies that actually feature things people want. And the theory of competition is such that if a number of insurance companies play the game, then they're going to be in competition with one another to get those dollars, and the policies will have to be reflective of the market and desires, and then cost will lower because of the competition. Small employers will be allowed to form their own groups to create association health plans and qualify for group coverage based on their needs and their desires. Now, the left is just having a cow over all of this. The Politico, it's not yet clear how far the administration will go or how quickly it can implement the president's order, but if successful, the new rules could upend the way businesses and individuals buy coverage, lowering premiums for the healthiest Americans at the expense of key consumer protections and potentially tipping the Obamacare markets into a tailspin. No, it already is in a tailspin. It makes no sense for the healthiest and youngest Americans to be paying the most. They won't buy it. They're not in the market. Therefore, none of their purchases get factored into the total amount of money in the pool that treats people who are in need of it. Obamacare was designed to fail just this way so that the demand for single payer would be met much easier. Karen Pollitt, senior fellow, Kaiser Family Foundation, used to work for Obama, said within a year this would kill the market. No. It will kill Obamacare and the phony and fake markets that it created. Here is another aspect of Obamacare that is being rolled back. Short-term health insurance plans. Trump administration is going to end Obama-era restrictions on short-term health insurance plans. They were not legal under Obamacare. Short-term plans allow insurers to sell stopgap policies which don't cover pre-existing conditions or mental health services and a whole lot of other costly things. In other words, you're going to be able to go buy what you want and not be forced to buy a bunch of things that will never affect you. You're not going to have to help pay, for example, for pre-existing conditions if you don't have one. You're going to be able to go out and buy a tailored policy, and the coverage could extend for as long as a year. Current limit is 3 months on these kinds of policies. People can't make plans on 3 months. A year is a little bit more time until you figure out where in the marketplace you want to be as a buyer. It's all good, folks. Back in a second. You know, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting very, very close here to needing a new ribbon color to signify women abused by Harvey Weinstein. Two more, a French actress, and now Kate Beckinsale has moved forward here. And she is the latest actress to come forward with a story about Harvey Weinstein, who has now been accused of sexual harassment by over 30 women. Beckinsale wrote on Instagram this morning that Weinstein first came onto her when she was 17, and that she believes even now that rejecting him hurt her career. Says, I was called to meet Harvey Weinstein at the Savoy Hotel when I was 17. I assumed it would be in a conference room, which was very common. When I arrived, reception told me to go to his room. He opened the door in his bathrobe. I was incredibly naive and young, and it didn't cross my mind that this older, unattractive, fat guy would expect me to have any sexual interest in him. After declining alcohol and announcing that I had school in the morning, I left uneasy but unscathed. A few years later, Kate Beckinsale added that Weinstein asked her if she had tried anything, if he had tried anything with her in that first meeting. I realized he couldn't remember if he had assaulted me or not. What, does she look like so many others? She says she had to continually reject Weinstein's advances over the years and that he threatened her and others. Up to 30 known women. And I'll tell you, there's collateral damage here. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and all of these wacko, we had a caller about this yesterday, all these late-night comedians, none of them covered the story, just like NBC didn't cover the story. They sent Ronan Farrow down to the New Yorker. And everybody's now in a CYA mode trying to come up with lying excuses that people might believe. But they're not going to fool anybody. I tell you, this is, it's like I said yesterday, this is a great opening. This is a wide opening, great opportunity to continue to prosecute the culture war in terms of identifying what liberalism is. Cosby or Harvey, who's ahead? Well, it's a good question. It's getting close. I mean, I think we have more names associated with Weinstein now. The difference in the two is that Cosby's women largely are unknown to anybody. But Harvey's women are all actresses and major, well-known now public figures. And they're all of a type. They're all actresses, so forth. But in terms of the numbers, I don't really know. The Obamas in this, folks, this is really, it gets more and more curious. And the other day, I think it was on October 9th, and here we are at the 12th. So it's either Monday or Tuesday. I opened the program with a heartfelt belief that one of the reasons this was happening, obviously, is that Hillary Clinton lost, but they gave Ted Kennedy a pass. And why? Lion of the Senate, he was right on abortion. He was a leader of liberalism in the Senate, so it was worth preserving, even in 1969. Then of course, Bill Clinton. They went to all costs to defend Bill Clinton, and in the process, they literally ripped the entire foundation of feminism right out from under it. And it sent a signal, and this is the key thing, I believe. It sent a signal to other liberal guys and other guys that may not have been liberal at the time that if you are right on the issues, you've got a get out of jail card. If you're right, and particularly on abortion, if you make it well known that you believe in a woman's right to choose, and even if you don't care, and even if your belief, honest belief, is the opposite, doesn't matter, you say that is the one thing that matters to you most. And it is a get out of jail card. It buys you insurance from being held accountable for any of this behavior. You could even, if you wanted to, you could even take this back to JFK and Camelot, where the same kind of stuff was going on in the White House then. And the media, to cover it up, created this image of Camelot at the suggestion of Jackie Kennedy, after, of course, the assassination. But throughout history, the fact is that liberal media has gone out of its way to cover up this kind of behavior. And isn't it ironic that this kind of behavior resides in the party that claims to be unalterably supportive of women's rights, be it workplace, opposed to workplace violence, opposed to rape, opposed to sexual abuse, well, any of these kinds of things, the bottom line is that most of this has been going on inside that party. And that party is where it is supposedly believed that women's rights are paramount. That's why I raised the belief yesterday. How much of this is even real? How much of these guys in Hollywood actually are liberals when the purpose of Hollywood is to get girls and then doing whatever you have to do and being whatever you have to be in order to get girls? If you think that you got to be pro-choice and if you think you have to be supportive of every wacko feminist cause, and if that's what it takes to succeed in Hollywood and to get girls, then that's what you'll do, whether you believe it or not. I think that explains a lot of it. I don't know how much, but it's phoniness is the bottom line. But what it has led to is that all of the truly, or the vast majority of the truly abusive anti-women behavior actually exists and takes place in liberalism among people on the left who all have an immunity from it. It's kind of like, it's along the same lines as Bill Gates or the Kennedys or Warren Buffett always being in favor of tax increases for people like them. What better way is there to keep the hordes from your moat, demanding to get into your house and take everything you've got? If you can convince them that you think you're not paying enough taxes and that you support tax increases for the rich, then you will be left alone. And not only will you be left alone, you'll probably be supported. So Bill Gates, Buffett, any number of wealthy people. Has it always surprised you to hear all these wealthy people claim they think they're not taxed enough, or claim that they're eager to support tax increases on the rich? And it seems to make no sense. They didn't get rich by paying high taxes. Why do they want to start paying high taxes now? The bottom line is they don't. They're simply saying so to keep people away from them, to keep the hordes, the people with the pitchforks, to keep them bothering somebody else. The Kennedys pulled this off. The Kennedys may be the greatest example of this kind of phoniness. Here you had this wealth that was generated from all the way back in the Great Depression. The import duty on Scotch, which they continue to derive today. The Chicago Merchandise Mart, Old Man Kennedy selling short on purpose, which is perfectly fine, but it destroys people in the process. All this massive wealth was created, and the Kennedy family is what? They care only about the poor and the downtrodden, and that's all they talk about. Then women's issues came along, and they're supportive of pro-choice and women's this and women's that. Meanwhile, Ted Kennedy behaves as he behaved. Bill Clinton behaved as he did. How much of this so-called policy belief on the left is actually genuine versus how much of it is a construct for other purposes? Well, this, to me, is the opportunity we have here in delving deeper into the culture war and explaining why the people who are literally doing the greatest damage to it are somehow exempted from any of that and get away with blaming people who are not destroying the culture, i.e., conservatives. And then there's a story here on the Obamas. Headline, disgusted Obamas were starstruck by Harvey Weinstein's access and cash. The Obamas' relationship with the movie producer, so Washington Times. The Obamas' relationship with the movie producer went beyond campaign cash. Mr. Weinstein even arranged for Mrs. Obama to make a surprise appearance at the Oscars as a presenter in 2013. The live audience in Hollywood gasped and applauded when Michelle Maybell, dressed in a shimmering silver gown, was beamed onto a screen at the venue to make the presentation for Best Picture. Weinstein was giving a presentation, Harvey was, at a film school one day, and he had a piece of advice for the students. He said, I never let anybody tell me no, even the White House. Never let anybody tell me No. Now, who do you think would be the person who could be of greatest service in helping casting couch movers and shakers navigate this crisis? Who out there? Because if it's Harvey Weinstein, there's got to be a lot of others. And you got to know, we know it's already Matt Damon, we know Ben Affleck, and there have to be others quaking in their boots. Who should they call for? No. They don't call Bill Clinton. No. I understand that knee-jerk response and reaction. Hillary Clinton is the expert in navigating these situations and having men accused of this stuff survive. Dead serious, my friends. Hillary Clinton is CEO and Chief Operating Officer of Bimbo Eruptions, Inc. Hillary Clinton may have finally found a way to appropriately reconnect with supporters, especially in Hollywood here. What a great service Hillary could provide to the movers and shakers in Hollywood, the casting couch brigade. She's an expert in these situations. She's the most cheated on woman in America, and every guy that's ever done it has prospered and triumphed and has never paid the price. She is an expert at this. Harvey and his people run around and they try to hire crisis PR firms and all that, but don't skimp. Hillary has a price. It may be expensive, but time has shown that it is worth it. What are you laughing at in there, Mr. Snerdley? Well, all good comedy is comedy because there's an element of truth in it. Right? That's why you're laughing. By the way, Bill Cosby, 57 women on record. Harvey Weinstein between 28 and 30. Hillary Clinton has led the most successful war on women ever. And in the process, she saved her husband's name, his career, his presidency, and the Democrat Party. Tell me how Harvey could do any better. You think Harvey was a bully? You ain't seen nothing yet till you hire Hillary. Just waiting on it. She takes the money. We know that, too. If you're talking about silencing women, preserving the viability of a serial sexual predator, Hillary Clinton is the GOAT. She is the greatest of all time. There's nobody in her league. Don't call Jeff Epstein. Don't call Bill Clinton. Don't call anything. Call the woman that showed everybody how it's done. And after doing it, you still get heap big praise in the media, and so will she. Hillary Clinton single-handedly could put every crisis PR firm out of business if she would take on Harvey Weinstein as a client and work her magic. Show me one time where it hasn't worked. You can't. In terms of silencing women and destroying their reputations and preserving the viability of a serial sexual predator, Hillary Clinton is unmatched. She is the greatest of all time. What are you frowning at in there, Dawn? She's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. That's what the acronym is. Admit it, Hollywood. You need Hillary now more than ever. Make the move. The New York Times is waiting to write the story. NBC would love to get this whole Ronan Farrow embarrassment off their webpage and their network. To the phones quickly, Jared in Quincy, Illinois. Great to have you on the EIB network, sir. How are you doing?
Doing great, Rush. A comment about this media and Harvey Weinstein stuff. It's really kind of unusual, but not unpredictable, that they're heaping praise on all these women who were abused. It calls them, the media says, incredibly brave, when in fact many sat on this story for 15 or 20 years and allowed the serial abuse and other women to be abused based on their silence. And I can foresee a time, maybe like at the Oscars, where all these women will be called to the stage for a standing ovation. And I'm not blaming them, but I'm just saying you're not a hero. The heroes are the ones who are willing to sacrifice a role in a movie to stop abuse. And there's very, very few of those in Hollywood, unfortunately.
Now, I have to say, this is a fascinating proposition. Now, you're making a point. You're not trying to vilify these women. You just don't understand why in the world they're being called brave when they all waited for somebody else to come forward. Right?
Yes, Rush. Yes, Harvey Weinstein is destroyed after the first things came out. Once he was destroyed, there's no bravery coming out. I mean, that's piling on. I mean, I can see why they would do it, but the brave were the people that.
Well, your comment really is not even aimed at the women; it's at the people in the media and elsewhere who are attaching that label to them. Of course, they'll accept it. They'll take the label brave and run with it, and accept the fact that they were. It's a good point. It's a good point. Where was the bravery? Where is the bravery? Where's the bravery when it's already out there and then there's a bunch of piling on? Good. I'm glad you caught through today. I've taken a break because we're out of precious, busy broadcast moments, but there are more. We'll be back to them here before you know it. Now, look, I can think of one reason why these women would not come forward with their testimony against Harvey Weinstein, and that one reason, once again, is Hillary Clinton. These women have to know what happened to Paula Jones and what happened to Monica Lewinsky and all the others that tried to be brave where Bill Clinton was concerned. She's the hire to fix this, I guarantee it. Greetings, my friends, and welcome back. Great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh executing assigned host duties flawlessly. Zero mistakes. And the views expressed by the host are now documented to be almost always right 99.8% of the time. You can't get much closer to perfection than that. Happy to have you here. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushbo@eibnet.us. All right, so yesterday on the program, I admitted that something was making me nervous about the entire NFL situation. And remember when I finished it, Mr. Snerdley, I came back from a break, or maybe it was during the break, I asked you, did I make this clear? Because I wasn't sure that I had. And you said perfectly crystal clear to me. And when I went to rushlimbaugh.com, my website, I'm rarely misquoted on my own site, but it's happened. Just kidding. I'm remembering where Charles Barkley said he was misquoted in his autobiography. Even the editors at the Limbaugh Letter got it right, and at rushlimbaugh.com got it right in terms of what I had said yesterday. And the headline at the piece at the website was, "It's NFL owners' job, not the president's, to control their employees." That's the point that I made yesterday. And now my choice of words in the process, I admitted that there was an aspect of this that was beginning to make me nervous. And I don't think I was clear enough about it. Or maybe I was, and people just had a knee-jerk and thought they heard something they didn't hear, but they wanted to hear it, so they ran with what they wanted to hear, which was I was breaking from Trump on the NFL. Well, you think that's the word? You think the fact that okay, Snerdley think it's because I used the word dictatorial when explaining all this. Maybe. My point, let me try this again. The way this was being presented in the news, and that's always what I react to, in addition to reacting to what's really happened. I react to both phases of a story because there are now two phases to every story. There's what's really happening and there's what's reported to be happening. And the way it was being reported was that Trump was going to force the players to no longer kneel, and Trump was going to force the players to stand. Now, I know full well that there are people who are not as attentive to the news media and the way it works, and they see it or they read it, especially if they read it and they think it's true. Everybody does that. Everybody makes that mistake. It's almost human nature. You see it written wherever. It could be written in some smut site on the website. Because it's written, you believe it. And if that is the way people were perceiving this to happen, that does make me nervous. My point all along in this has been the NFL is the one botching this. The NFL doesn't know what's happening. The NFL misreads its audience. The NFL should have gotten hold of this way back in Kaepernick. The NFL, they're the owners. They are the employers. They are the equity holders. They're the people who own this business. Therefore, it's their responsibility to have their employees behave in a way they choose, not the president's. I don't want the president of the United States, whoever he is, to ever have the power to determine, particularly, that any person is going to show allegiance to whatever the president demands. And I admitted yesterday that this makes me nervous, but it's being reported Trump thinks players should stand. Trump thinks players shouldn't kneel. Trump thinks this, Trump thinks. So the news reports are Trump thinks, Trump demands, Trump this. And then if there is a result where the players no longer kneel, then I can see where people think, look what Trump did. Trump is pressuring the owners, as he should be, and he's perfectly entitled to do that, and that doesn't bother me. But he doesn't have the power to make anybody do what he wants to do. All he can do is suggest. He can get close to demanding, and he can threaten, and he can do anything. But the actual bit about demanding it and being able to get away with it, no, we don't want that on the part of any president or any elected leader. And that's what I was being made nervous about, was the way people were maybe perceiving this. Now, it's been written up that I am distancing myself from Trump as he pressures a business, and I'm not. If Trump wants to pressure the owners to do what he thinks is the right thing, that's one thing. But if Trump has the power or the ability to make them, well, that's another, and that's not what's going on here. The power of persuasion is much different than the power to dictate. Trump is using the power of persuasion, and he is very effective at it, and it doesn't hurt that a vast majority of Americans agree with him. There's a story here from the Daily Caller. Trump voters hate the NFL more than Clinton voters hate Fox News. Did you see this? A New York Times analysis yesterday of daily polling shows that Donald Trump voters view the NFL more unfavorably than Hillary Clinton voters feel about Fox News. The NFL has a negative 24% net favorability among Trump voters, Fox News a negative 14% net favorability among Clinton voters. Now, there's another story in this stack here. This kind of surprised me a little bit, too. The NFL, and this, again, is from the New York Times. It's part of that same research. The NFL is now one of the most divisive brands in America. About 3 weeks ago, before Trump said that NFL owners should fire players who kneel during the national anthem, he never required them to. He never demanded that they do. He said that they should fire them. Democrats and Republicans held relatively similar views about the league. 60% said they viewed it favorably. 20% said they viewed it unfavorably, according to daily online surveys conducted by Morning Consult. This is a polling media technology company. Since Trump's remarks, many of his supporters changed their attitudes. Trump voters are now much more likely to say that they view the NFL negatively. reflecting a sharp change around September 23rd when Trump criticized the players at a speech in Alabama. The views of Hillary Clinton voters have not changed appreciably over the last decades. But moving on to this polarization business, I have here the top 15 most polarizing brands and companies measured by Morning Consult net favorability. Net favorability is you ask somebody favorable or unfavorable, New York Times, and they get their numbers. And then the net favorability is what's the majority that are in favor of this business, or what's the net infavorability, as it turns out. The most polarizing brands and companies as measured by Morning Consult, and this is survey research, Trump hotels. Clinton voters, 52% disapprove. Trump voters, 48% approve. The difference is plus 99 Republicans percent. CNN is the second most polarizing brand. 54% Clinton voters like it. 28% Trump. Here we go with charts again. Forget the numbers here because numbers on radio are just confusing, and they're confusing to me anyway in charts. The bottom line is that CNN is the second most polarizing brand and company in America. Now, this is a news network that purports even today to be unbiased and right down the middle, and they don't taint the news. I mean, you hear them talk, they blanch at any suggestion that they're biased. But they're not fooling anybody. This is not good. If you're a news business, you don't want to be polarizing. NBC News is number 3, third most polarizing brand and company. Number 4, the New York Times. Number 5, MSNBC. Number 6, Fox News. Number 7, the NFL. Number 8, Chick-fil-A. Number 12, the Fox Business Network. Number 13, the Breitbart website. Number 15 is the Breitbart, NBC Sports. I don't know where number 14 is. Maybe there's a tie in there. Yeah, there's a couple of ties. But those are the named. Some of the other brands are not known. But for, other than Trump, 4 out of the top 5 most polarizing brands in America are left-wing oriented news organizations. CNN, NBC, New York Times, MSNBC. Fox News is number 6, and the NFL. Which means the NFL is now among the nation's most divisive brands. That they don't want to be anywhere near this. The NFL doesn't want to be a polarizing outfit. Polarizing means, in certain businesses like mine, polarization is great because I stake positions. The Rush Limbaugh program is said to have perfect polarization in terms of marketing. Perfect polarization means nobody is ambivalent. You either love this program, you really love it more than anything, or you like it. And then over here is 2 or 3% that hate it. But nobody says, I don't know. I don't care. Nobody says that about this program. That's called perfect polarization. Now, everybody wants to be loved by everybody. That's human nature. Nobody sets out to be hated. Nobody is raised to be hated. Everybody's raised to be loved. Everybody's raised to be loved by everybody. Everybody is raised to make sure everybody likes you. And yet, a lot of people end up being polarizing figures. So they have to learn to adjust psychologically to being hated and despised. It took me 4 years to learn to take all that as a sign of success. It's a very odd thing to have to learn to do. The NFL doesn't want to be anywhere near this. The NFL doesn't want to be polarizing. This is what I mean about them not understanding their audience. The players are creating the polarization. The people that play the game are the ones causing the problems. And the people that own the business seemingly don't have the balls to tell them to stop it, that they are hurting the business. They seem more interested in making sure everybody knows that we feel our players have the right to freedom of speech and self-expression and to express their grievances. Fine, but don't let them do it on a stage you own, because you're only hurting your business. You're allowing them to hurt the business. And this is what Trump has said. Nobody else is saying it until Trump started. People were just tuning it out. You could make an argument Trump is actually trying to save this business by getting this line of criticism going. I don't know if he was actually trying to do that. I'm just saying you could say that based on what's happening now. But if you give Commissioner Goodell or any of these other people a chance, they wouldn't want to be offending anybody. They want everybody to love the NFL. They don't want the NFL to be associated with polarization. Neither does Kellogg's. Neither does General Motors. Neither anybody who sells anything to anybody does not want to limit the market by polarizing it. And yet the news networks are leading the league in polarization. That, folks, is if they could wave a magic wand and put themselves on this list or not on it, they wouldn't be anywhere near it. And they could do better. CNN could, but they won't make the change necessary. The NFL could get themselves off this list. This is the whole point, but they apparently aren't willing to do it. So Trump comes along, says what he says, focuses attention on it. The commissioner and the owners get their backs arched. You can't tell us what to do. You can't. So in defiance, they continue to let the players harm the business. And it keeps on, and it keeps on, and it gets worse. And finally now the commissioner has sent a memo to the league saying, hey, could you do what you could to make sure everybody stands up? This is not because Trump has mandated it. It's not because Trump has dictated it. It is because Trump has raised consciousness and awareness about it to where the commissioner and the owners realize they have to do something about this. And if they don't, it's going to continue to get worse. In the midst of all this, there are numerous stories and now sound bites of how I am splitting with Trump because I don't like dictators, when Trump hasn't dictated anything. But I understand why they're saying it, because I'm not comfortable with the idea that people think Trump was going to be able to get players fired or make them behave the way he wanted to for whatever reasons. But if Trump can pressure the people that run that business to do what's right, that's a whole different thing. But if he can mandate they do it, no way. No, but all I was saying was that I'm getting nervous about the possibility that people were perceiving it this way and might end up supporting it. That this is the kind of stuff we opposed throughout the Clinton years and the Obama years, with all of his executive orders and all of these waivers on Obamacare, for example, for his donors. And so the way he had these giant spending bills called stimuluses, which didn't stimulate anything. It was just money sent out to his union buddies. The growing expansive power of the federal government. I don't care what happens. I'm never going to be in favor of that, because no good comes from it. Look, let me take a break. I'll show you some of the sound bites associated with this, and we'll get back to your phone calls. All coming up next. Don't go away. Okay, grab soundbite number 43. Here's the latest on this from the NFL standpoint. This Commissioner Goodell this morning, NFL Network, which they own. The program called Good Morning Football. Our co-host is Nate Burleson, and he's interviewing the commissioner. Question. Let's start off by reports there's going to be a policy change in the NFL that'll force players to stand during the anthem. Even the president came out and said that you were going to force players to stand. What can you say about that?
There has been no policy change. What we plan to do is have a very in-depth discussion with our players and our owners next week and make sure we truly understand the issues and also understand the approach that we want to take together with the players to address these issues in our communities. I believe that urgency is actually beneficial, but This isn't something that started 2 weeks ago. This is something that we have been focused on for well over a year. It's hard work. It requires patience and, frankly, a deeper understanding than, frankly, we're willing to give a lot of these issues. And I know our fans are focused on football as well as they should be, and we want to get that focus on football, but we want to support our players, support our communities, and help make them better.
Well, I would love to know what you people think of that before I weigh in and characterize it. So you heard him. There has been no policy change. He sent the memo out. He told the owners and the executives, look, can you do what you can? It'd be really helpful if everybody would stand up and then we'll talk about this. But he says there has been no policy change. So they're continuing. I'm not going to characterize it. I'm going to wait for you. Okay, going back to the phones now. People have been patiently waiting. And I realize, well, you know what? This guy's calling about the NFL, so I may ask him to respond to the Goodell bite. I'm dying to, but I want to defer. Plus, I've got the soundbite for all these people in the drive-bys, including Neil Cavuto now, are claiming that I am breaking with Trump on this. Cavuto, here, before we get, Paul, hang on. He's in Cape Coral, Florida. Grab soundbite 26. This, just this afternoon on the Fox Business Network.
It isn't skewing exactly to political lines. Rush Limbaugh, I think a pretty conservative fellow, is uncomfortable with the president inserting himself in what NFL owners should be doing or saying.
No,
I think I got the gist of that, right? But that this is going too far. So what is the happy medium here? I know Commissioner Goodell is meeting with all the owners, I believe, next week.
See, none of this is right. I knew that I had not made myself clear yesterday. I knew it. I knew the minute I finished that it was going to be too easy for somebody to distort it. I was speaking in a generic sense about something that is specific, and they took my generic comments and attached it to something specific, which distorts my meaning. All I said was, I'm getting nervous at some of the ways this is being reported, the way it's perceived, the way it's going. But I did not say that I was uncomfortable with the president inserting himself with the owners. I did not say I thought the president was going too far with the owners. Anyway, here's Paul in Cape Coral, Florida. Great to have you on the program, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir, today, Rush. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Appreciate that, sir.
Rush, this whole thing goes back to the leftists going after what is left for them, because they don't have anything left but, rhetoric and hate speech. And you said it 2 years ago. I remember listening to you. It was about 2 years ago when the helmet issue came up. And I was listening to you, and out of nowhere, you just said, do not doubt me on this, folks. You very well may not have an NFL in a couple of years from now. I know you're laughing now, but mark my words. I remember you saying that. And here we are later on in even a more, in a worse position with the leftists coming after the NFL. It's not about flags or statues or anthems or anything else. They're coming after the Constitution.
That's true. They're going after the Constitution in a number of ways. Now, your memory is right on the money. This whole thing started with concussions and the danger, and they were associating it with player suicides and CTE, and they made a movie about it. And I told people that this league is not going to be what it is at some point in the future. And I didn't specify 2 years because I didn't think it was going to happen that soon. I might have said 5. But what I did say is that it may not happen in our lifetimes, but this league is finished. As you know it, this league is over. Well, now something that I didn't even foresee is beginning to happen, and that was Kaepernick. So Kaepernick happened.
Exactly.
Pardon?
Exactly.
You had Kaepernick to the concussion issue. You have to add them. You can't separate them. It's all part of the same inertia here that is moving against the league. It is an oppositional force against the league. And what nobody foresaw was the players deciding to agree with Kaepernick and start protesting the very country that has made them wealthy and that affords them this opportunity in a league that is 75% African American. So you add that to the concussion business, and now it's getting worse, and the deterioration is happening even faster than I thought, because I thought it was just going to be concussions and the left would focus on the safety and health. And now they've got an even better entree. Now they can go after the country. And better than that, they can have the league itself be perceived as anti-American. You couldn't have a greater success shot than this. If your objective is to present the idea that America sucks, that America's racist, that America's bigoted, and you want to destroy the NFL at the same time, you got a twofer here now. And as is evidenced here, the league, they don't know what to do. Paul, are you still with me out there?
I sure am, but I like I said, over the years listening to you, that was right on, and 98% of the time you were right, and let me tell you, that was spot on. And it did happen a lot quicker.
I appreciate it. Well, I want to play this Goodell soundbite for you, and I want your reaction to it. But if it would put you on the spot, I don't want to do that. But if you'd like to do this, I'd like to play it before we get your reaction to it.
Yes, sir.
You want to go? You want to do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Here we go, the Goodell soundbite. You just heard it. I'll play it for Paul. I asked for people to react to it, but the lines are full, which means we might not get the calls who want to react to it till next week, and I want them now. So the solution here is to ask existing call. Okay, here we go. Here's the Goodell bite. Takes about 45 seconds. Be patient. Listen to the whole thing.
There has been no policy change. What we plan to do is have a very in-depth discussion with our players and our owners next week and make sure we truly understand the issues and also understand the approach that we want to take together with the players to address these issues in our communities. I believe that urgency is actually beneficial, but this isn't something that started 2 weeks ago. This is something that we have been focused on for well over a year. It's hard work. It requires patience and, frankly, a deeper understanding than, frankly, we're willing to give a lot of these issues. And I know our fans are focused on football as well as they should be, and we want to get that focus on football, but we want to support our players, support our communities, and help make them better.
So what is your reaction? Are you a football fan starting out?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Big Buccaneers fan.
You are a fan, then? No
yes,
question.
Sir.
So what is your reaction here to the commissioner's statement?
Well, the first thing that really caught me is when he said that they don't really consider this as much of a problem. It is a big problem, and to me, that statement that he just made right there, leftists and Kaepernick and the rest of them are out there jumping up and down with their hands up in the air saying, we're winning. And that's the only reaction I got out of that. I mean, they know it's about, the anthem is about honoring the men and women that bled and died for this country. And they know that. And they're turning it into a personal protest that they know millions of people are going to see.
Right, but what I'm getting,
get this word out.
Yeah. But the commissioner has just issued a statement here in reaction to Trump claiming victory. Trump and everybody's out there claiming victory, and the commissioner's throwing cold water. I said, no, there isn't any policy change here. We're not telling the players they've got to stand up. And he goes on to explain why.
Then it's just digging more into the leftist agenda. I mean, to me, he made that statement under either leftist duress or he has very close leftist friends.
Well,
saying the president just can't change football. I agree with that, but it was just, to me, it was just a lackadaisical comment, just making it so, to make everybody happy.
Oh, he's not making everybody happy with this. This is well, let me see here. Look, I got to take a break. Go through the call roster and ask anybody if anybody wants to react to this, and we'll think I overreached. Okay, but we'll get to that. I want to get somebody that's going to react to this. Find out that if there's somebody on hold that that wants specifically to react. If nobody, we'll wait till we get somebody. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Yeah, we're back. El Rushbo on the cutting edge of societal evolution. Let's. Who? 1 in 5, you said? Line for Lad in Minnesota. Welcome to the pro. You want to react to this Goodell soundbite statement, correct?
Yes, I did. I think he's just kicking the can down the road. I think he's trying to buy some time. I think he's thinking that he's made a statement now, and he's going to see how the fans react by saying he thinks the players should stand up. But I think he's just kicking the can down the road and buying some time.
Well, I appreciate that. I put this statement in context with everything that we've known and learned. And up until this statement, the most recent input we had from the commissioner was the memo that we all got yesterday that he sent to club owners and executives, in which he stated that he would appreciate them meeting with their teams and encouraging their players to stand. And that at the same time, constructive meetings would take place on finding alternative ways for the players to continue to lodge or show their displeasure, to continue their protests, but to please, let's try to get everybody standing for the anthem. It was not a dictate. It was not a command from the office of the commissioner. And that is why Goodell got the question. He said, all right, so let's start off by reports that there's going to be a policy change. People think there's a policy change because of a Goodell memo yesterday. Let's start off by reports there's going to be a policy change that'll force players to stand during the anthem. Even the president came out and said that you were going to force players to stand, and that's because of the Goodell memo yesterday and we read it to you, and it did sound like he was asking the club owners to ask the players to stand. Could we move on and find another way of doing this? Now, asked point blank about it this morning on the NFL Network, he said there has been no policy change. What we plan to do is have a very in-depth discussion with our players and our owners next week and make sure we truly understand the issues and also understand the approach that we want to take together with the players to address these issues in our communities. Well, the way to translate this is, yeah, I sent that memo out yesterday, but it wasn't a policy change. I was asking people to cooperate with me here, but I can't make them, or I'm not going to make them. I asked them to cooperate with me, and then we'll have an in-depth discussion with the players and the owners next week to make sure we truly understand the issues, meaning we'll let the players vent in a meeting next week, and we'll try to come up with a way that if they want to say they hate the cops, that we give them the opportunity to keep doing so. That's what he's saying here. If our players think their communities hate the cops and they want to show their displeasure with the cops or with the country or with discrimination or with bias, we want to find a way outside of the anthem and outside of the games for our players to continue to try to, quote, unquote, improve their communities. This is such, well, I believe that urgency is actually beneficial, but this isn't something that started 2 weeks ago. That's a reference to Kaepernick. This is something we focused on well over a year ago. Kaepernick, he says it's hard work. We've been dealing with this crap for over a year, and we haven't been able to fix it. It requires more patience and a deeper understanding than we're willing to give. Meaning, these players have a legitimate grievance, and our white asses don't yet understand it, and we got to take time to make sure that we do. That's what he's saying here. And I'm not going to tell these players they got legitimate grievances that you and I can't understand, and we're going to listen to them. So he's making it clear here that the player's grievance is the most important thing here, in finding a way that they can continue to express it while hoping. Could you just not do it during the anthem, guys? Could you please? God, we'll give you anything, but please, not during the anthem. And that's my take on this. Let's go back to the phones. Bob in Hampton, Virginia. It's great you called. Welcome to the program, sir.
I'm a 10-year listener.
Uh-oh.
I think you're one of the smartest guys ever. And your comments bother me. This is the first time I've heard you overreach in your opinions, in that Donald Trump's comments could be construed as the government coming down on private business and influencing private business, and you're worried about that. Am I correct?
I just didn't say this correctly. It's abundantly clear here that I tried to mix a generic policy philosophy I have with a specific event, and they don't go together. What I was trying to say was, and I did not make this clear yesterday, the way all of this is being reported is that Trump is dictating to the players of the league that the days of kneeling and squatting or whatever during the anthem are over, and they're going to start standing up. And then people started reacting to it. And I just, in a philosophical, overarching, generic sense, it makes me nervous if people support and think a president should have that amount of detailed power over people's behavior. Trump has not told the players they must stand or else. He has tried to pressure the officials in the league and the owners to man up and do the right thing. He has not mandated that they do it. He has strongly suggested it, and in the process created overwhelming public support for his position here, which it's working. That's why Goodell sent the memo yesterday.
Yes, I agree with you. Well, what you originally said, which prompted my call, is that you were worried that Trump's comments were the government trying to dictate the behavior of private business.
I was thinking private individuals, because I've got no problem with Trump pressuring, not dictating. I've got no problem with Trump telling Goodell what he thinks he's doing wrong.
But you used the term the government dictating.
Yes, dictate is the term I used because I don't want it to get to that. Look, I knew when I finished. I asked Snerdley if I was clear on this, and Snerdley, in pure supportive fashion, said yes. But I just knew. All right, the fastest 3 hours in media, and we've already done 2 of them, and there's 1 more to go. And we're just going to pick right up here where we left off, folks. Still many more angles of all this. You're in the right place to hear all of them. Don't go away. Well, here we are, folks, mired in it once again. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman, America's truth detector, translator of gobbledygook BS, and a doctor of democracy, all combined in one harmless, lovable fuzzball package. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I have to tell you that, excuse me, my staff on the other side of the glass here has just had the biggest time in the last 10 to 15 minutes. They think that a couple of things I said are guaranteed to be played and looped over and over again, even on ESPN. They're not worried about this, but they find it funny as it can be. 2 things I said while dissecting Roger Goodell's statement today on the NFL Network. And this is what I mean by translating gobbledygook BS. You know, I can translate Diplo speak. When people who are trying not to say something say it anyway, I'm the guy that can detect it. When they're trying to say something but not say it, I know when they've said it. And then I translate it into everyday common usage language, which I did. And they're just having the greatest time in there. And I'll mention it again, but before I get to that and going backwards, I want to keep rolling forward here. On the commissioner's statement. Here, play it again. Grab number 25. Again, it's Commissioner Goodell on the NFL Network today, which they own. NFL owns the network. The show Good Morning Football. Nate Burleson is the host, and basically says, let me start off with reports. There's going to be a policy change in the NFL. It'll force players to stand during the anthem. Oh, I should add, there is a game tonight in Charlotte. The Philadelphia Eagles in town to play the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers. And there are because the word went out because of a Goodell memo yesterday. The Goodell memo went out that they were going to ask here in the Goodell memo. How did I put this here? It actually has a statement. Yes, like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the anthem. This is in the memo yesterday. It is an important moment in our game. We want to honor our flag and our country, and our fans expect that of us. That was sent as part of the memo sent to all the owners and a bunch of execs at the teams yesterday. Well, I mean, people made some assumptions on reading and hearing this, that the commissioner had basically told the owners and their executives, hey, get the players standing, okay? Stand up for the anthem. Well, a lot of people are worried the players are going to stand. And so they're planning on ancillary protests at the game tonight, hoping to attract the attention of the sports drive-bys. And one of those groups is a bunch of pastors in Charlotte tonight. All eyes will be off the field as a large number of civilians have indicated they will be participating in their own kneel-in protest outside Bank of America Stadium. Nearly 100 pastors and community leaders plan to hold a kneel-in protest outside the stadium before the start of the Panthers-Eagles game tonight. The protest intends to highlight ongoing police brutality and social and racial injustice, just as former San Francisco 49er quarterback Colin Kaepernick did while the national anthem was played before a 2016 game. This is a quote from Bishop Kevin Long of the Temple Church International, Charlotte, in words he gave to the Charlotte Observer. These things have yet to be properly addressed in our judicial system and the like, which makes my translation of the Goodell statement right on the money, Mr. Snerdley. They're worried that the players aren't going to kneel now because of the Goodell memo yesterday, so they're going to have a kneel-in outside the stadium, and they're inviting the sports drive-bys to come televise it. So, with that as added information, let's go back to the Goodell statement this morning on the NFL Network.
There has been no policy change. What we plan to do is have a very in-depth discussion with our players and our owners next week and make sure we truly understand the issues and also understand the approach that we want to take together with the players to address these issues in our communities. I believe that urgency is actually beneficial, but this isn't something that started 2 weeks ago. This is something that we have been focused on for well over a year. It's hard work. It requires patience and, frankly, a deeper understanding than, frankly, we're willing to give a lot of these issues.
In other words, there's more going on here than our white asses can understand, and we got to be patient and take the time to figure out what it is. Just don't do it during the anthem. We'll work with you. We'll let you educate us. But don't do it during the anthem. That's what he's saying there. Now, there's one other aspect, and that's what the staff thinks is so hilarious. They think even that's going to be on ESPN. I don't care. I'm almost getting too famous to be on any other show but this anyway. Any other show puts me on distracts from that show. Any show that puts me on causes that audience to ask, why isn't Limbaugh on this show every time? But there's a Joe Lockhart is now the PR director for the NFL, and he's a Clintonista. And I think Lockhart is working with Goodell. The question was, let's start off by reports that there's going to be a policy change in the NFL. Goodell didn't answer that question. Goodell said there has been no policy change. He wasn't asked if there had been. He was asked if there was going to be. And he didn't answer that. And this is not splitting hairs. This is why I see the stitches on the fastball. I can tell if it's a curveball or a slider headed my way when it's words that people are uttering. Goodell said there has been no policy change. That's a message to the players. Don't freak on me. There's no mandate. We just really want you to stand just this weekend, and then we'll try to figure something out where if you hate the cops, we'll give you a way to say you do, but just don't do it during the anthem. Well, hate the cops, what did these ministers say? The protest intends to highlight ongoing police brutality and social and racial injustice. Don't complain to me when I properly translate what people are saying. But the rest of this Goodell statement here, I'll finish it myself. And I know our fans are focused on football, as well they should be. And we want to get the focus on football, but we want to support our players and support our communities and help make them better. And that, again, is if the players want to express their disgust with the cops and with racial inequality, then we're going to find a way to let them do it, just not during the anthem. Now, my question is, what is the purpose of the NFL? What is the goal of the National Football League? Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat here. We had a caller talk about Robert Kraft, who owns the Patriots. Why does Robert Kraft own the Patriots? Is another way of asking the question. Why does Gerard Jones of the Dallas Cowboys own the Dallas Cowboys? It's another way of asking the question, what is the one goal of the statement of the owners, the purpose of the NFL and its members? And back to Goodell's statement, and I know our fans are focused on football as well as they should be, and we want to get that focus on football, but we want to support our players, support our communities, and help make them better. So let me answer my own question. What is the one goal of the NFL and its owners? Let me give some multiple choice answers here, and you tell me which one you think is the answer. I'll even let you choose two of them. Ready? Profits. What's the one goal of the NFL? Number one, profits. Number two, playing football. Number three, to have fun. Number four, kind of a subset of number one, to sell merchandise and product like Tom Brady toilet seats. Number five, entertainment. Is this why the NFL exists? Employing hundreds of thousands and providing them health care? Supporting floundering TV networks? And finally, changing things in the community. That's what Goodell said they want to do. They want to get back to football, but they want to support the players and their communities and help make them better. Is that why the NFL exists? To change things in communities and make them better. If you ask me, that is the one thing That is not the NFL's job. That noise you hear is the printer, which has been broken since July. And we have constant attempts to fix it going on, irrespective of whether I'm on the air or not. Shows you where I rank in the hierarchy here. That's the one thing. What? No solution since, 1st of August. Changing things in the community, making things in the community better. That, to me, that's the one thing that's not. All these other things, supporting floundering TV networks, all these other things could be related to the overall purpose, which is profit. The overall purpose is making money. Now, all those others I mentioned are subsets or subsidiaries. But changing things in the community? Come on. That is not why anybody buys a team in the NFL. It might be in the future. You know, some millennial scores big and wants to own an NFL team and might actually think the purpose is to change things in the community, but the guy will never win a Super Bowl, but he may not care to. I mean, people are different. But right now, the people that currently own these teams are not in it to lose money, change communities. It's the one thing that's not their job. But the players, well, they don't own anything. And they don't really care about profit because they get paid whether there is one or not because they have contracts. When you get right down to it, they don't care. I've even heard current players who are leaders of the union say, I don't care about the league 10 or 15 years from now. I'm not going to be in it. Wait a minute, I asked. What about union solidarity? What about preparing a system that will continue to provide for players long after you've gone? I don't care about that. It's not my business. I don't own it, said one union member in the Players Association. The players, some of them, want to use the NFL as a platform they do not own. And I don't even think they're about changing things in the community. I think they're simply about raising hell. I think there are ways, because this is not changing anything in the community. This is just driving the people away that you want to reach. This is just causing this league to lose influence and to lose its power and to lose whatever respect. What the players are doing, the people that play the game are driving customers away. The people that play the game are the ones inflicting damage on it, while they claim they want to improve and change their communities. A noble, by the way, I will admit it is a noble dream. It is a noble objective, but it's fruitless. This is not how you do it. And there's ample evidence in American history to show this is not how you do it, which I have to think the organizers know, which means there's a whole other reason why all this is happening. And I maintain the primary target in all of this is, in fact, the NFL, and not cops, and not bad communities, and not social injustice or any of that. The target of all of this is the NFL. They're the effort here. They're the entity that has been targeted for damage. And I hear some of you out there shouting at you, Rush, you really think the players, they get paid by this? You think they're really trying to hurt? I don't think the players think that's what they're doing. But there might be a couple who do, who might have just piles and piles of resentment for who knows what, and wouldn't mind, while they're getting paid, knowing they're only going to get paid for 2, 3, 5, 10 years max, depending on their level of anger. How many of you people have hated the boss in your lives? That's something that every employee has in common at one time or another. And if you work at radio, it's every day. The chief of staff of Donald Trump, John Kelly, just walked into the White House press briefing and took over for a while. And it's interesting, on Fox, they're going gaga over it. It was great. We need more of this. This was awesome. And CNN is similarly disposed in covering it. We have a couple sound bites from it, and I want to get them out there now. We'll go back to other things here. But what is crucial about this is the drive-bys are out saying that Tillerson's going to get fired, Kelly is going to quit, everybody hates Trump, Trump's out of control, Trump's losing his mind, Trump's wandering the White House in his underwear, cursing photos of previous presidents, and asking, why did it happen to me? And he says, none of this is true, you people making it up. And he went in there to tell him he's not quitting and he's not getting fired, and very little of what's being said about the White House right now has any validity to it. And let you hear it in his own words. 2 bites. Here's the first one.
Although I read it all the time, pretty consistently, I'm not quitting today. I don't believe, and I just talked to the president, I don't think I'm being fired today. And I am not so frustrated in this job that I'm thinking of leaving. I would tell you, this is the hardest job I've ever had. This is, in my view, the most important job I ever had. I would offer, though, it is not the best job I ever had. Best job I ever had, as I've said many times, is when I was an enlisted Marine sergeant infantryman. So unless things change, I'm not quitting, I'm not getting fired, and I don't think I'll fire anyone tomorrow.
And then he says it's hard to run the government, quickly says that he's not running it. And let me see if this bite doesn't have it. But one of the things Kelly said, the biggest problem that the president has is with you in this room. And he went on to elaborate what he means. But here's before that, he said this.
No, I'm not frustrated. This is really, really hard work, running the United States of America. I don't run it, but I'm working for someone who is dedicated to serving the country in the way that he's talked about for a number of years. There are incredible challenges, economic challenges, healthcare challenges, all of that, obviously international challenges that have to be dealt with.
And he went on to say that, and I think there was no question asked. He just continued to speak. And he said, frankly, the biggest problem the president has is you. He looked out at the press corps. It's in this room. And he said, from the standpoint of you all need better sources because what you're writing isn't true. You need to change the sourcing you're using, the leaks or whatever. Now, these are my words. I'm paraphrasing what I heard, and I had to listen fast during the last break when he was making these comments. But it was an unscheduled appearance in the press room during the press briefing, and I'm sure it was inspired by all of this nonsense about the 25th Amendment and Trump isolated in the White House, going crazy, on the verge of being unfit, mentally unfit, and all this stuff is gaining traction out there. Unfortunately, by the way, if I might add, the never-Trumpers are so eager to get rid of this guy that they took my comments yesterday as canary in the coal mine comments, and they wanted to make it look like I was splitting from Trump, which would be a big split, Trump base leaving him. That's something they have been desperately hoping to see. And they thought that's what I had said, when of course I didn't. And we go back to the phones. This is Shelley in Ocala, Florida. Welcome. I'm glad you waited. Appreciate your patience.
Glad to talk to you, Rush. I have a comment about these people floating that 25th Amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
Trying to get rid of Trump. I wonder if they have thought about how they are going to deal with the fallout if they are actually successful. Because the Trump supporters are not just going to walk away, shrug their shoulders, and leave. They are going to rip this country apart.
They don't care. They don't care what you're doing now. They don't care. They don't care. They literally don't care. This is not about you. It's never been about you and Trump's voters, except to the extent that they could distance Trump voters from Trump. And if to do that, they have to get rid of Trump, that's what they've been trying to do since election night.
Yeah, I know that, but, I mean, I'm really worried about what's going to happen if they succeed. the violence that's going to happen afterwards?
If they succeed, it will mean one thing. It will mean that the establishment, the elites, whatever you want to call the inside the Beltway people that we call the established, it will mean that they have the ability to overturn a duly constituted and fair election based simply on the fact they don't like the outcome. And if they can do that, then every other election from here on out is rendered meaningless. And that's what people will think. And you're right, there would be hell to pay for it. But they think they're protected and insulated inside the Beltway. Nobody can get to them. But believe me, this is all about, it's not even, Trump's personality, I think, eggs them on. But even if Trump were a nice guy and were not tweeting and were not, if he wasn't saying all these things, but if his agenda was the same, they would still be trying to get rid of him because he's an outsider. They simply cannot afford for what has happened here, for the results of this election to equal success. They can't permit it. It's the one thing that would render them and their uniqueness irrelevant. Imagine if an outsider can come in and fix what the American people want fixed and think is wrong, and if an outsider can come in and inside of 4 years reverse the trends of this country, get it back on the right track, what does it say about those inside the Beltway who've been telling us for 30 years they're trying, they're working real hard, but they've always had excuses? What will it say? They will become immediately exposed as frauds. So that's what this has always been about.
I know, but if they succeed, there's going to be no putting this back together.
Well, I agree with you that it would be very bad. It's hard to imagine what actually would happen in terms of what people would do, but I know it would not be pretty. I've had other people say to me, do they know what they're doing? What's the matter? They're still going to get Pence. It doesn't matter to them. Pence is not an outsider. In their world, in their view, Pence is one of them. He's a governor. He's been a member of Congress. He knows the swamp. He knows how it works. He is not Donald Trump. Nobody else is. And it doesn't matter if they ended up with the person they hate the most inside the establishment. Getting rid of Trump because he's not part of the club is the key. What do you think would happen? Why don't you be specific? Tell us what you think.
I am afraid to even think of it because...
Well, you obviously have things in mind, or you wouldn't.
Total anarchy is one. I mean, they just think that we're going to shrug our shoulders and just say, oh, okay, you win?
No, they don't think that. They don't care. They don't think you have the power to do anything to really harm them anyway. They think you'll get over it maybe, but honestly... if they were worried about that, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, and they wouldn't even be trying. They're not worried about that. These people are never worried about public opinion. That's the point. Public opinion doesn't determine what the swamp does. It never has. The swamp decides what it wants to do. The moneyed people, the donors, the people on K Street, people that write the legislation. Members of Congress don't even really write legislation. That stuff all happens from outside. It's obvious they don't care. They think that they can deal with whatever you do. And you know what? I can see where some of them would think it's an upside. If it's true anarchy and you blow the place up, that would give them every opportunity to expand the power of government to control you all and to put down whatever, quote-unquote, uprising you engage in. And it would be goodbye posse comitatus. If they have to deploy the tanks in downtown Chicago to keep everything in order, they'd do it. For a lot of them, they'd like nothing better than to be able to erase a bunch of the Constitution and rewrite something that purposely spells out what they can do instead of what they can't. I think something else would happen. I'd still... to this day, I don't think the swamp, the establishment, the elites, the ruling class, as Angelo Codevilla refers to them. I don't think they really understand how many Trumpists there are. I think they still think the election was an electoral college fluke, and that the vast majority of people in the country oppose Trump. I don't think they believe that it would be even that significant an uprising. They also think that a number of Trumpists are lazy and will go with the flow anyway, and have been conditioned over the course of their lives to accepting that they always lose and that Washington always wins. And so they're probably thinking that what will happen with most people is they'll just tune out and stop participating in elections and campaigns and voting, which would also please them. That's why, this is serious. The 25th Amendment, all these made-up stories of Trump losing his mind and being mentally unfit and claiming that he wants to expand the nuclear arsenal 10 times. No matter how many times they deny it, they continue to run the story. They're still looking for proof of the Trump dossier. These people are desperate as I've ever seen a group of people. That doesn't get reported, though. They instead are reported as normal, concerned, worried about the mental stability of our president. The drive-bys are not properly characterizing who their sources are and the degree. I think there's a high level of panic in the invisible sectors of the swamp that we never see because the cameras are not allowed. I think there's been panic ever since election night, coupled with the shock of disbelief. And I don't think it's abated. And I think they're frustrated as hell. They've thrown everything they've got at Trump. Everything. They've thrown a combination of every trick they've used to get rid of previous elected officials, presidents, members of Congress, the Senate, so forth, and candidates. They've combined every technique and every dirty trick they've got, and they've used them all on Trump. And not only is he still there, he is continuing to reverse their agenda as identified as Obama's agenda, this executive order signing today on taking the chopping block to Obamacare. Anyway, Shelley, I appreciate the call. I really do. A quick break and back with more after this. By the way, folks, one thing I want to add here on the in any of these stories, if you hear anything about Trump being unstable on MSNBC, you've got to reject it. It's MSNBC that's unstable. MSNBC has people that just, and the same thing for Vanity Fair. Folks, if you hear anything, if a source for anything about Trump is in Vanity Fair, automatically reject it. Vanity Fair is populated by people that are just irrational. They're uninformed. They're part of the Hollywood media culture, celebrity media culture, and they're not wired. They are being used as tools by, so is MSNBC. I'm just trying to help you out here. I've got no reason to mislead you on any of this. Why do you think I never quote them here except to have fun with them? But both of those sources, why, if you've got somebody in the White House who really wants you to believe that Trump's losing his mind and that Trump's on the verge of having to be, little yellow bus called and the men in the white coats are coming to take me away, ha-ha, and you hear about that in Vanity Fair, and then think back to NBC spiking the story on Harvey Weinstein and forcing their own little reporter, Sinatra's son, to head down there to the New Yorker, Ronan Farrow. I mean, there's certain things you just have to automatically hear reject. If you only hear it or hear it first, and some of these obscure, way out there, I mean, places that are just, the whole energy is hate. You've got to learn to just be suspicious of it. Christopher, in Bay City, Michigan, you're next, sir. Hi.
Hey, Russ. It's a pleasure. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Off, yes, I initially called for this 25th Amendment. If they were to get this done, and they just don't understand that Pence is the next in line, but what does that say about everyone who Rush or who the president has appointed as his cabinet? They have one knocked out. It would be complete anarchy. It would be scary what they think that they could accomplish if they were to do that one thing. And there are a lot of people, I see it across my Facebook every day, that are, Trump's unfit. They just go on and on about it, and it's growing in numbers. So what do you take? I mean, how do we do about this? Where do we go? What do we do as people who want a free and just economy and a government?
Well, okay, remind me, I'm going to make a note to myself. The process, implementing number 25 is not, you need 2/3 votes in the House to get this. This is not just the cabinet taking a vote. But be here tomorrow, and I'll run through what has to happen here. All right, let me just make it as simple as I can. I do not think that Trump is acting as a dictator. I don't care what the drive-bys distorting what I tried to say yesterday are saying. You can feel free to respond on social media that people saying that are full of it and to go to hell. In no way, shape, manner, or form. Jeez. Anyway, tomorrow coming soon. See you then.